Happy Tuesday, everyone. I am going to be doing this really short video to talk to you about this worksheet that's due today. So it's not going to be a regular ed puzzle. It is going to be a worksheet. So if you want to print it out, you can print it out. If you want to just do this on a piece of paper, that's fine. When you label it on a piece of paper, I want you to label it as the number. So for instance, this problem is 1A. This problem would be 1B, and then the next problem would be 1C. This would be 2A, this would be 2B, and 2C, and so forth. Okay, so you do want to complete all of the problems for this. So I'm just going to kind of explain what you're going to be doing. So for each problem, you're going to be identifying the relationship. So what is the relationship between these two values? And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to actually solve for the value itself. So there's several different things that you're going to be using for this. First thing you're going to be using is this sheet of paper for all problems that have parallel lines, okay? So you're going to be using this paper for all problems that have parallel lines. So that will be for the first problem, the third, and the fourth, and it will be for this problem, and these problems. Okay, so you have essentially all of row 1 that you're going to be using in it. You'll be using it just for the third problem in row 2, just for the first problem in row 3, and then the last two problems in row 4. And I'm going to be kind of explaining how you do this or how you use the chart. So I'm going to be explaining it for this bottom problem here. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself this first question: are the angles inside or outside? So what you're going to do is you're going to look at these and say, okay, are they inside or the outside? Well, it looks like here's the parallel lines. One of them is on the inside of the parallel lines and one of them is on the outside of the parallel lines. So I'm going to look at my chart and say, okay, they're not both inside, they're not both outside. One is in, one is out. So I'm going to be going to this value here. Then the second question I'm going to ask is, are the angles on the same side or different side of the transversal? Okay, so same side or different side. So here's my single transversal. Both of my angles are on the same side. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to my chart. Remember I said one is in, one is out. They're on the same side. Now this is the only one that you have to go additionally. You're going to say, are the angles next to each other or are they separate? Okay, so are they next to each other or separate? So if we looked at this and we looked at, these are not next to each other. Next to each other would be one right above the other. Okay, so they're separate. So because they're separate, then therefore they're corresponding, okay? So that first part of my problem, I would say, okay, the relationship here is corresponding. Okay, now the next part to solve for it, I'm going to look at these, this specific kind of category here, and I'm going to find corresponding. Okay, so corresponding is underneath the equal to each other. So because it's equal to each other, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set both of these equal to each other. So 4r minus 18 equals 2r plus 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and solve for r, and that will be my value for r, okay? So all of the questions that have a highlighted value, I'm going to use this chart, and I'm going to kind of walk through how to figure out what is the relationship, and then how to set up the equation, and then solve the equation, okay? For the ones that do not have the highlighted values, so for instance, if you were looking at this one, it doesn't have parallel lines, so neither of these have parallel lines, and so that's why we're not going to use it. So what we have to do is we have to use our note pages 16 and our note page 17. So note page 16 is introducing vertical angles and linear pair, and then note page 17 is introducing complementary or supplementary. So we have to look at those definitions. So for instance, on this one, you'll notice that it is a box, which is a 90-degree angle. So if you look at this, you say, okay, complementary is 90 degrees, supplementary is 180. Vertical is equal to each other, linear pair is 180. So the only one that's 90 degrees is complementary. So therefore, the relationship here is complementary. And then for complementary, you'll notice that it says two angles whose measures add to be 90 degrees. So if they add together to give you 90 degrees, to set up your equation, you'd have 3x plus 2x minus 10 equals 90. And then you go ahead and solve for x for this one, okay? So you're adding these together to give you 90 degrees, okay? So you're basically going to be looking at the relationships here and the definitions from note pages 16 and 17 to figure out what is the relationship here, how to set up the equation, and then go ahead and solve. So you want to complete this entire worksheet. You're going to take a picture of it on Google Classroom and then upload it. If you have any questions, please feel free to join one of my Zoom sessions and I can answer those questions there as well.